Which impersonation should I do? Come with me if you want to count down the top 10 movies of 1991. Terminator? What about Hannibal Lecter? Quid pro quo. I tell you the top 10 movies of 1991. You hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. It'll be great for both of us, Clarice. I'm just kidding. Let's count down the top 10 movies of 1991. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Cinema Sermons. My name is Kevin, and today we are continuing the 1990s review series with the best movies of 1991. If you are unfamiliar, we started our review series of decades with the 1980s. I think I started with the year 1984 just because I wanted to talk about the 40th anniversary of that great year. And then we went into the rest of the decade of the 80s, giving you my top 10 movies of each year. And then I did a video of the 1970s where I give you the best movie to come out each year of that decade. But as we continue, we just put out the 1990 video and it's time to jump into 1991, and this year is full of bangers. So before we get started, hit that like button, hit the share button, subscribe to the channel. It helps me out tremendously. And remember, this is just my list. That doesn't make it right, and I would love to see yours. So let me know your favorite movies of 1991 down in the comments. All right. Coming in at number 10 is going to be Thelma and Louise. It stars Geena Davis and Susan Sarandon and even Brad Pitt. Geena Davis plays Thelma, who's a little bit more meek and kind of quiet, mild-mannered. Her friend Louise is a little more rowdy. They go on a cross-country road trip, and Louise ends up actually killing a guy, so it becomes a run from the law, and it's just a good movie. Great, like, friend chemistry, and chicks love it because these chicks go out hardcore to the end. They're like, us, you know, we're not going to prison, and they think they drive right off the edge of the cliff, man. Sorry for spoilers, man. It's been over 30 years. What do you want? But it's a fantastic movie, and it comes in at number 10. Number 9 is going to be the Martin Scorsese film Cape Fear. This stars Robert De Niro and Nick Nolte. Robert De Niro's character is imprisoned after they know that they have evidence that could have acquitted him of R-word charges, but they don't bring that evidence forward, and he goes to prison for 14 years, and when he gets out, he is coming for that attorney, and it is just a revenge story. It's a very difficult movie to watch at times, but man, it's just so good. Scorsese is always on point. He's one of the greatest filmmakers of all time, in my opinion. And him and Robert De Niro are just an amazing pairing, and this is just an iconic film. And both these movies that I just referenced have been parodied in The Simpsons, Thelma and Louise and Cape Fear, so it's great. Coming in at number 9 for us is Cape Fear. Number 8 is City Slickers, and this movie stars Billy Crystal. Billy Crystal plays a guy who is a city guy and just wants to get away, so he goes to a dude ranch and really lives that frontier cowboy lifestyle. And it's a comedy. It's so funny. I actually just picked it up at Walmart in the little $5 bin the other day. But even though that lifestyle is just hard work and there's really no days off on a ranch, it's just a pure kind of living, man. And being from Colorado, I knew a lot of people who worked on ranches. I even did it for a little bit over a summer. It's hard work for sure, but it's just a pure kind of living, man. And you know, I love that just out west cowboy aesthetic. So easily for me, coming in at number 8 is City Slickers. Number 7 is gonna be Father of the Bride. Steve Martin plays the father of the bride, and the tradition of the father pays for the wedding and things like that comes into play. And it's a comedy. It's so funny, but it also has a lot of heart because Steve Martin, he's giving his baby girl away. It's very difficult for him to do. And it really kind of shows everything that a father would go through. Diane Keaton is in this as well. It's a very fun and funny movie with just a ton of heart, and it comes in as the 7th best movie of 1991. Number 6 is going to be The Addams Family. This is the Addams Family I grew up with. Obviously, it came out the year before I was born, so I didn't grow up with the classic TV show. When I was introduced to The Addams Family, it was this version, this iteration of The Addams Family. And this movie still holds up today. It is just absolutely hilarious. When October rolls around and that spooky season rolls around, this is one of the perfect movies to get you in the mood. There are a lot of people who don't like horror movies. There are a lot of Christians who really don't like horror movies and think you cannot watch them. I think this is a really good middle of the road where you could still get into the feel of that autumn aesthetic and enjoy a good, just funny movie that I do think everyone in the whole family can enjoy. So coming in at number 6 for us is The Addams Family. Number 5 is gonna be Boyz n the Hood. This movie stars Ice Cube, Cuba Gooding Jr., and I believe it was Ice Cube's first entrance into acting. This movie is a drama about the inner city lifestyle and gangs, especially in the 90s in LA. It is not a movie that glorifies hood violence or anything like that, or gang violence. In fact, the very first shot of the movie is a stop sign, and it slowly pans in on that stop sign, and you hear gunshots and sirens. It's saying we need to stop this violence. It's not it's a protest movie. It is certainly not glorifying that lifestyle. It makes you fall in love with the characters of Ricky and Doughboy and all of them. So when the tragedy does happen later on in the movie, it hurts. It's not just a story of like, oh, you know, black teen killed in LA by gangs or whatever. It's like, wow, this kid had hopes and dreams and a future. And even with Doughboy, when he takes that revenge later on in the film, when you find out he died 2 weeks later, the cycle just continues and continues. And gang violence is still a very real thing in places like LA, Chicago, New York. Inner city violence is still really bad. And this movie does a fantastic job of showcasing that violence. Like I said, it does not glorify it. It is a protest movie, but it does shed light on the reality of those situations. I think it's a fantastic movie directed by F. Gary Gray, and it easily comes in at number 5 for 1991. I own this one on Blu-ray too. I think it's a fantastic movie. Number 4! Number 4 is gonna be Backdraft. I have a special spot in my heart for this movie because I wanted to be a firefighter since I was about 14 years old. Taking the test here in about 8 weeks, so wish me luck, man. I'm working for it. Any 𝐃𝐨𝐧'𝐭. Anyway, this movie's fantastic. It really bases around, I think, Billy Baldwin. It's one of the Baldwins, and Kurt Russell. And they are two brothers who are firemen whose father died in a fire. And they're basically trying to find this arsonist running around the city, starting a whole bunch of fires. It has some great practical effects and practical scenes where they really used controlled fires and controlled sets, controlled burns on set. I think it's a fantastic movie. It's a good story. A little bit of that 90s cheese. But like I said, might be a little bit biased because I've wanted to be a firefighter for so long, and this is like one of the quintessential firefighting movies along with like Ladder 49. So it comes in at number 4. Coming in at number 3 is gonna be Point Break. This movie stars Patrick Swayze and Keanu Reeves, and it is just awesome. Keanu Reeves plays Johnny Utah, a former college football star turned FBI agent, and he has to go undercover in this surfing world and even learn how to surf to try to find these bank robbers who are the dead presidents, who he ends up finding out he thinks they're surfers. So he gets so engrossed in this culture and he gets so deep, he ends up falling in love with these people, and there's the line between duty and friendship, and he falls in love with the surf culture, man.
You still haven't figured out what riding waves is all about, have you? It's a state of mind.
This movie is so good. It has so many practical stunts, practical effects, and I think this really showed that Keanu Reeves could be more than just like the dumb guy from Bill and Ted, and really had that action star quality in him. This is one of Patrick Swayze's best movies. Might be his best movie, man. Like this, I think I like this movie better than Red Dawn. We'll see right now because I'm so hyped up on this, but whatever. This movie is absolutely fantastic. Before John Wick, this was my favorite Keanu Reeves film. It is so good. If you have not seen Point Break, do yourself a favor, go watch it. This is one of my favorite summertime action movies because with the mixture of the beach and the sun and the surfers, it's just such a fun movie to watch in the summertime, and it's just awesome. It's so great, and it absolutely comes in at number 3. Coming in at number 2 is the Best Picture winner for 1991, The Silence of the Lambs. This movie was based off of a novel, and it's actually the second attempt at making a Hannibal Lecter film, but this is the definitive version of Hannibal Lecter, played by the wonderful and amazing Anthony Hopkins. The story follows Clarice Starling, who's an FBI trainee, and she is tasked with going to talk to Dr. Hannibal Lecter and try to get a little bit of information from him to find the serial killer Buffalo Bill, who they cannot find. Hannibal Lecter is a very well-renowned psychologist, but he was also a murderer who would not only kill his victims, but he would also eat them as well. He's absolutely insane, he's absolutely evil, but he is brilliant, and you get this little cat and mouse game between Clarice and Hannibal.
I'll help you catch him, Clarice.
And he's definitely got an attraction to her, but she's never in danger. But she doesn't know that, and we even as the audience are like, is she in danger? We really don't know. And she shows just how smart and resilient she is. She goes through so much trauma in this film, but she is strong and she keeps going. Every room she walks into, she's looked at as, you know, not only tiny in stature, but they kind of just like, oh, a woman in a man's space. But she doesn't keep going. And what I think is great is when the men in power try to hit on her, she has no part of it. But there's a scene where one of the nerdier professor guys asks her out, and she's so sweet and kind to him. And I just thought it was great. That little scene shows how great Clarice is. There's a lot of very close-up shots on the faces to make you feel uncomfortable, and you have to hold that eye contact with the characters, and it really immerses you, making it seem like you're having the conversations with them, and it makes it a very uncomfortable watch as well. This is a fantastic movie. I could go on and on all day. Easily the best thriller in my opinion. It is the only horror adjacent film to ever win Best Picture, and I think it is the second best film of 1991. But coming in as the best movie of 1991 is Terminator 2: Judgment Day. This is the follow-up to James Cameron's 1984 film, The Terminator. And this movie does everything that a sequel should do in terms of expanding the story, making the lore richer, and expanding upon the characters, their growth, as well as the action. The first movie was like a sci-fi, romance, action, thriller, horror. This one is full on action, dude, and it is probably the second greatest action film of all time behind Die Hard. In this movie, we get two Terminators sent back through time. The T-800, played by Arnold Schwarzenegger, and this time his mission is to protect John Connor. He is sent back in time by John Connor to protect him as a child, because the T-1000, played by Robert Patrick, is sent to kill and target John as a child. Sarah in this movie is no longer the fearful waitress that we met. She is the strong female lead of strong female leads. She is the boss chick in this movie. She has put on a lot of weight. She's been training, she's been studying. Everything that she does is preparing for Judgment Day and preparing for John Connor. And you see the mixture when she sees the T-800 again, how scared she is and terrified, and she doesn't trust him the whole movie, but she ends up realizing that he'll never hurt John. We see the humanity in John Connor and why he is the one to really lead humanity in this fight against machines, because Sarah almost becomes machine-like in herself and cold and calculated in her thoughts. John has this humanity, and if we lose our humanity in the sense of survival, then what's the point of surviving? The movie is so much more than just action and sci-fi. It is about the preservation of human life and the preservation of humanity, and it is absolutely the best film of 1990. It's one of those movies that, you know, it's not the kind of movie that wins an Oscar, but it should win an Oscar. Just because something is action doesn't mean it's not a great film. This movie covers every single base. It has action, it has humor, it has heart, it has a theme, it has just this fantastic swelling score, amazing practical effects along with CGI effects, and every single time I watch it, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe how great this movie actually is. Terminator 2, in my opinion, is one of the greatest films ever made, and it's absolutely one of my top 10 movies of all time. And what they mean to me, it's actually top 5 or top 6 favorite films of all time for me, and it is easily the #1 movie of 1991. But that is all I have for today. Please let me know down below your picks for the top movies of 1991. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? I would love to see it. Do you think the Terminator franchise does a good job carrying on from here, or should it have ended after T2? That is what I think. I do not acknowledge any of the other ones. There's only 1 and 2, and that is it. Hit that like, share, and subscribe button. It helps out the channel tremendously. And remember, I love you. Jesus loves you. That's our story. I'm gonna stick it to it. Hey.